Mr. Squidward, welcome to the night shift.
And hello again, everybody, and welcome into another edition of the MI6 Sports Network's late night sports talk show. That, of course, folks, is The Night Shift on episode number 27 on this Saturday night, December the 5th, 2020. Per usual, folks, joined by our late night correspondent, our good friend Isaiah Leung from the home studios up there in Fremont, California. Yours truly, Cal McClurg from the home studios here in America's finest city of San Diego. Isaiah, good to see you, man. How we doing tonight on this Saturday evening?
I'm doing great, Callan. I got this shirt on. I've been telling Shree, Ryan, Steven, and all of the guys on the MI6 Sports Network, as well as our audience out there, for the longest time that this year that Brock Purdy would lead Iowa State to the Big 12 title, and today Iowa State took a major step forward to accomplishing that goal by clinching the Big 12 regular season title as well as a spot in the Big 12 championship in 2 weeks against the Oklahoma Sooners, the team that they beat a month ago in Ames, Iowa. So they'll hope to replicate that and do it again in 2 weeks. But, man, I'm happy, man. The GOAT delivered the Big 12 regular season title. There was a lot of college football today. All I did was just sit back on the couch, Callan, and just watch college football all day long while sipping 2 glasses of pina colada, and I had some barbecue chips with me. So it was a great day, very, very relaxing day. So I can't wait to come on here now and talk about all the things that transpired in the college football world, as well as my boy helping Iowa State clinch their first Big 12 regular season title since 1912.
And again, folks, as a reminder here, this is The Night Shift every Tuesday, Saturday, and Sunday night, 10 o'clock Pacific time. Isaiah and myself come your way to, again, give you a Cliff Notes version of your sports day with, again, plenty of commentary about games, big plays, big games, big news of the day that, again, if you've probably been away from your phone or not able to really sit down and watch any games or miss out on all the big news, we, again, do our absolute best to bring you a Cliff Notes version of your sports day to you on Tuesday, Saturday, and Sunday night right here on the MI6 Sports Network. Now, Isaiah was gloating earlier about being able to watch college football all day. I was unable to watch any of these games today because, you folks probably may or may not know, today was my first day back to the announcing work schedule with the USD women's basketball team hosting crosstown rival San Diego State at the Jenny Craig Pavilion. And I think, folks, that more so right here and right now, we're obviously seeing, sports being played in a very interesting time in regards to certain cities having fans, some markets not having fans. We've seen a lot of the images of maybe, cardboard cutouts or a lot of the empty seats being played. But still, though, with game operations, what I'm a part of, basically in-game entertainment or game operations, still treating all of these home games for all of our schools and even the counterparts and the visiting teams like there's a full house there. And I will, folks, show you what my office view looked like today at the Slim Gym here, a.k.a. the Jenny Craig Pavilion, for our game between USD and San Diego State. Now, folks, with this in mind, again, as we all know, it's been a very interesting time for all of us here trying to watch sports either on TV or, for that matter, working in sports when, of course, the game has no fan attendance. Again, we have been somewhat accustomed to this, sadly, since all the sports have come back. But typically, folks, I'm actually sitting not at this table that I'm at, so far away from the main scores table in front of me. But again, due to the nature of social distancing and plenty of other things going on, we actually, folks, were sitting on the graduation stage that they pulled out and built for us basically behind the scores table. And so I'm basically my own man on an island. But again, all spaced out. I have the in-game DJ to my left and also the statisticians to my far right of me. And again, this is what I would say, though, is a very weird time because we're so used to being kind of in a way boxed in next to people. So there's going to be some challenges for people like me, and for that matter, anyone that works in sports, though, of trying to adapt on the fly in a way, though, to the, obviously restrictions and also new things going on. But I just wanted to kind of show you folks how things have looked, though, at least here in San Diego. Again, you probably noticed, though, but the bleachers are pushed all the way back on the far side of the court, on the same side that we're on as well. You can't obviously see the lower level of the seats. Of course, temperature checks. Masks must be worn throughout the course of the game. So I've been, or at least today, called the entire game in-house via wearing a mask, stuff of that nature, and also a lot of restrictions, though, about where we can and cannot go throughout the arena as well. So technically with a Tier 2 pass, which is what I have in Tier 2, you're not allowed to go to certain areas. So I think, though, that it's I will say, though, folks, a very great job that was being done here, I think, by all the schools that are trying to get these games going. And obviously no fans, I think, helps a lot. Of course, we are also trying out ambient crowd noise over the PA system. Of course, it probably will get a bit redundant, but it does at least add some type of a feel. And I think, guys, as I bring you in here, you were taking a look at this vantage point here, as mentioned. And we have seen, though, man, so much, though, where sports have had to, again, change on the fly in regards to benches in basketball being spread out further, masks being worn on the bench, not during the course of gameplay. But also you're seeing like the other essential, what we would call essential game day staff in regards to communication reps for both schools, in-game entertainment, announcers, the scorekeeper, shot clock, all the vital people that make basketball games, for that matter, sports in general, go off without a hitch, though, is that people are kind of in a way out of place, and it's going to be a bit of a trying time for people to kind of, I think, get used to it. But more so, I wanted to kind of show this, though, to kind of show everyone out there how things are being run right now, at least here at USD. But Isaiah, any thoughts or takeaways, though, about how, in fact, things have been set up, though, but maybe more so your thoughts about seeing the vantage point that I had today and how it's going to be for majority, if not the entire season, for at least for basketball at the University of San Diego?
Well, first of all, Callan, one of my biggest takeaways is that Jenny Craig Pavilion looks really, really good. This was actually my first time seeing it, and it looks kind of like a movie theater in a way. With the if you look in the backdrop with is it the red windows I'm seeing? Like, I'm not sure if those are windows or not, but
they're not windows. I'm really not sure what they're supposed to be, but they're very cool accent pieces, whatever they are, for the home decor.
Yeah, I love those red let's just call them windows because they look like windows for now. But
Fair.
Like those red windows next to the bleachers, they just look really cool. But in terms of the difference between calling a game now during the pandemic and calling the game during a normal year, I kind of feel for you because, with from what I'm looking at, your view is really far from where the action is taking place. So it's gonna be really hard for you to see the numbers of the jerseys of the players and what is happening. Like from that angle that you just showed on the picture, I can't even see. Without my glasses on, I couldn't even see if the ball were to go in the basket or not. That's how far it is. So I kind of feel for you in that standpoint.
Well, thankfully the camera doesn't do justice for the photo because I can actually see the entire floor, obviously, without the camera not doing the justice. But I will say, though, that the biggest thing, though, right now, and I think a lot of announcers that I've talked to have shared, though, is with us either being farther away from the floor is more so on fouls because we really can't hear the officiating crew that well, or we can't see can't pick up their numbers right away. So, but then again, though, this is just as much as it is for the athletes, but more so, again, us also adapting on the fly to the changes basically done here. But again, folks, wanted to kind of show, again, how, in fact, things are looking right now, though, at this stage with sports trying to come back in some type of capacity right now. But again, San Diego State and USD getting my season officially started today at the Jenny Craig Pavilion and holding out hope and, of course, wishing the best for everybody involved in sports right now that we have all these games go off without any hitches along the way. And Martin Garcia agrees, Isaiah. He says back to normal very slowly, or slowly in general. Of course, Mr. Garcia, good to see you, and thanks for joining us. With that, folks, getting on track now for the program. As we already, folks, have mentioned, we are in the middle of our 31 days of network hot takes and our 31 days of the hot takes bracket challenge. This now, folks, is day number 6 of the challenge here tonight. And that matchup, folks, is another rematch, I should say, between Ryan and Isaiah. Folks, you are voting tonight. Again, to cast your vote, folks, it's facebook.com/mi6sports. You are voting for either Ryan's hot take of Matthew Stafford being a top 5 NFL quarterback, or you are voting for Isaiah and his but now infamous storming off the set when James Wiseman was picked over LaMelo Ball at number 2 overall in the NBA draft about 3 or 4 weeks ago. So again, folks, facebook.com/mi6sports, and cast your votes for tonight's poll. Isaiah, over to you to defend yourself about James Wiseman. What do you got?
Well, first of all, about James Wiseman, the reason why I, had that reaction was because I really wanted LaMelo Ball to go to the Warriors. It had been a dream of mine for ever since Steph Curry broke his wrist, and we found out that the Warriors were probably going to get a top 5 pick in the NBA draft. So I really wanted LaMelo to go to Golden State, and it would make sense because a couple of hours before the draft actually happened, there were news that broke that Klay Thompson tore his Achilles. So Golden State, they had a big need at guard, and I was just like, really? You're going to draft a center instead of addressing a need that is really glaring on your roster? So I was really ticked off because the Warriors didn't draft LaMelo Ball. But Callan, about the the hot takes and moments challenge, I think I had one moment that was me saying that me ordering a pina colada live on air. I don't know if you guys remember that. Well, Callan, I think you should be proud of me because actually tonight I'm not drinking a pina colada. Instead, I'm drinking a mimosa live on air. I know it's in an orange juice bottle, but there is some alcohol in here with the orange juice. So, hey, I am moving up the ladder in terms of alcoholic drinks.
He's learning, folks. He's learning. But again, folks, Ryan Schreiner versus Isaiah, round 2. Again, folks, cast your votes tonight, facebook.com/mi6sports. Again, it's either Ryan's hot take of Matt Stafford being a top 5 NFL quarterback, or Isaiah going along the route of the James Wiseman draft day reaction. That is what, folks, you are voting for in tonight's bracket challenge for day 6 of our 31 days of hot takes challenge. With that in mind, Isaiah, over, buddy, to the college football scoreboard and some of the games of the day, though, man. First and foremost, it is number 5, Texas A&M, hosting or taking on Auburn, I should say. And Auburn lets this game go by the wayside. 31-20, A&M rallies back to knock off the Tigers down there in Alabama today. Isaiah, with so much uncertainty still being cast around Ohio State right now, again, they did, in fact, clobber Michigan State, though. But again, a lot of uncertainty, gamesmanship about that Michigan Wolverines game coming up this Saturday. Will it be played? Will it not be played? Stuff of that caliber. But that Texas A&M, though, man, they're knocking on the door, in my mind, of that number 4 spot. If, in fact, though, that this game with between the Buckeyes and Wolverines is, in fact, PPD'd or canceled at this rate, because, A&M kind of they have a great comeback victory over Auburn. But not just that, though, as well. They're keeping the pressure, I think, on the top, at least in my mind, the bottom 2 teams right now in the top 4 between Clemson and also with more so, I think, Ohio State over Clemson at this rate, though. But Isaiah, your thoughts on, above all else, though, the comeback victory, though, by A&M over the Tigers of Auburn earlier on Saturday?
My biggest thoughts on this is that Auburn's head coach, Gus Malzahn, needs to go. Gus Malzahn has had a great career coaching at Auburn. He's had a fantastic record, but his biggest shortcoming at Auburn is his inability to beat the good teams. He's beaten the Kentuckys, the Vanderbilts, the Tennessees of the world, but when it comes to beating the Georgias, the Alabamas, the LSUs, the Texas A&Ms, he just hasn't done that. I think in his last three or four seasons he's played those teams, Gus Malzahn is a combined 1-13 against those teams, and that is not good. You have to beat the Georgias, you have to beat the Floridas, you have to beat the Alabamas, you have to beat the LSUs, and you have to beat the Texas A&Ms if you want to actually compete for the SEC championship. And if you look at Bo Nix, Auburn's heralded quarterback, very, very talented quarterback. Bo Nix, when he came to Auburn, he was a very talented 4-star recruit. He had a great freshman year, but he has clearly regressed. This guy now is just limiting himself to dinks and dunks. He doesn't really throw the football down the field, and that is very concerning because he did throw the football down the field a lot in his freshman year. But now, as I mentioned earlier, he's just limiting himself to dinks and dunks. So he doesn't make any mistakes. He's still a great runner. He had 11 carries for 49 yards and 2 touchdowns, but his regression as a passer is very, 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 very alarming. And if Auburn wants to take that next level, they need Bo Nix to not be good, but to be great in order for them to take the next level. So I believe that Gus Malzahn has to go in order for Auburn to take that next level and truly become a contender in the SEC instead of always being a pretender. And in terms of Texas A&M, this was all about the ground game for them. Isaiah Spiller had 20 carries for 120 yards. Devon Achane had 9 carries for 99 yards. Kellen Mond, the quarterback, 10 carries, 60 yards, and a touchdown. Alenia Smith, 7 carries, 36 yards, and a touchdown. They dominated Auburn today in the running game. That's why Kellen Mond didn't really have to do that much with his arm because the running game was just so effective. Kellen Mond with 18 of 23, 196 yards, 2 touchdowns. And, there's a tight end right now in this game that a lot of people, I'm pretty sure, don't know anything about that I think is going to turn into one of the best tight ends when the NFL draft rolls around, and that is Jalen Weidermeyer. I recommend you guys to keep track of this kid as the draft rolls around because he is super talented. He's a great blocker. He's a guy that is also a fantastic route runner, has great hands. He had 8 catches for 89 yards and 2 touchdowns today, made an absolutely amazing leaping catch to give Texas A&M that the lead that they wouldn't relinquish. So keep an eye on him, ladies and gentlemen, as the draft moves or the draft comes around.
Isaiah, I do think, though, that Texas A&M right now is probably playing, I think more so, we talk a lot, Isaiah, in sports about teams getting hot at the right time. I don't think there's a better time for Texas A&M to kind of, in a way, like I said, knock on that door with Ohio State kind of in a way. They're clinging right now to that 4 spot. Again, that's right now in the balance because a lot of reports, as we already have said, though, maybe some gamesmanship by Michigan, who may, in fact, use COVID to get that game with the Buckeyes postponed to keep them out of the Big Ten championship game, perhaps. But more so that Texas A&M, to me, I think, Isaiah, despite BYU and Cincinnati and the feel-good stories that they have been, Texas A&M, to me, should be first in line, though, because they're right on the, first team outside of that top 4 right now. But also that, that running game, absolutely sensational in this ball game against Auburn, but more so that and also, Isaiah, one quick point about Auburn. We've seen this, though, man, so many times that we see a lot of these great programs kind of decline. USC for a bit, Texas for a bit, UCLA, but now Auburn's also joining that boat, though, again, with no, obviously Cam Newton's not going through that door or coming through that door to be the quarterback. Chris Davis isn't running that kickback that was missed against Alabama many years ago, or what feels like forever ago, basically, and that programs go through that decline. And I know, of course, that there's probably emphasis on the coach right now, but at the same time, though, I think it's more so, I think it boils down to the talent on that roster, and Bo Nix, in my mind, can only do so much. You need more guys to kind of help out and take some of the load off of Nix at quarterback. One quick thought, Isaiah, from Chardol, who is pumped about the NBA season. 17 nights ago, the NBA begins, I should say, and ready to watch the Warriors and Nets on the 22nd of December. We're also ready for the Lakers and Clippers coming up on December 22nd as well. But again, folks, it is A&M all over Auburn, 31-20, and a comeback effort nonetheless for the Aggies to knock off the Tigers. Next up, Isaiah, Brock Purdy, and the Iowa State Cyclones clinched their first conference title in what feels like a long, long time as they clobber West Virginia 45-3 for the Cyclones. Again, a very impressive day for Brock Purdy, and also, again, a monumental day for the Cyclones football program. I think, though, Isaiah, minus Brock Purdy, this is a great day if you are a Iowa State fan to kind of see this football program get back on track or kind of bring some respect, I think, to this Iowa State program that really, I think, man, has not really, in my mind, had a lot to hang their hat on athletically for a long time, or maybe more so recently. And Brock Purdy has kind of maybe helped kind of put Iowa State back on the map in the Big Ten Conference. And, of course, they wall up West Virginia pretty handily, 45-3. And, of course, they also clinch a spot in the Big Ten title game with that victory over the Mountaineers today. Isaiah, overall thoughts on Purdy's performance, but also what this win, though, might mean for Iowa State football, maybe for the future, again, as we see this program get a shot at the Big Ten title with them going to the conference title game in about 2 weeks.
Well, Iowa State, this game really showed what I've been saying for the last couple of weeks, and that is Iowa State is a different beast than all the other Big 10 or Big 12 teams out there. You talk about Oklahoma, Oklahoma State, Texas, and Texas Tech. What these teams, and also West Virginia, what these teams have in common is that they don't prioritize defense. For them, it's all about score, 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 and score. And, they don't care about defense. They think that they can just outscore you, and then it's going to be fine. Iowa State is like an NFL team in the Big 12. They are a team that loves to run the football. And then when they don't run the football and they decide to pass the football, Iowa State likes to go in pro-style formations and throw it to their tight end, Charlie Kohler, or throw it to their wide receivers. And then they play very, very good defense. They are an NFL team in the Big 12. Brock Purdy today was 20 of 23 for 247 yards, 3 touchdowns, no interceptions. He's been fabulous the last 3 games for Iowa State. The running game, Breece Hall, who I think is the MVP of this team because, the last 7 games for Iowa State, Breece Hall has ran for over 100+ yards with at least 2 touchdowns in every game. Today, Breece Hall had 22 carries, 97 yards, and a touchdown. He averaged 4.4 yards a carry. Very, very impressive. And then Kini Ngwangwu, their backup running back, he also chipped in with 9 carries for 77 yards and a touchdown. Brock Purdy himself, in addition to the passing stats, he had 7 carries for 38 yards and a touchdown. Just Iowa State dominated West Virginia by their ability to continue to run the football behind those big offensive linemen. And, I think, Iowa State, I don't know if even if they win the Big 12, right? If they beat Oklahoma again and they win the Big 12, I don't know if they will be able to make it to the playoffs, even as I'm really hoping they will. So I could see Brock Purdy in the playoffs, but I don't know if they will because Iowa State, if you look at their 2 losses, they have Oklahoma State, which is a very respectable loss considering Oklahoma State right now is ranked high in terms of the college football playoff rankings. But that loss, that week 1 loss where they didn't come to play against Louisiana Lafayette, that is going to hurt them a lot. And I think that's going to be the ultimate nail in the coffin when it comes to Iowa State's playoff hopes. I'm hoping they make it to the playoffs, but I highly doubt it because of that loss. And also, in terms of their future, Callan, I believe that Iowa State, they need to give Matt Campbell, their head coach, a blank check when it comes to an extension. Because right now we've already heard the rumors from the last couple of years that teams like LSU wanted him, teams like Texas wanted him, even the NFL had wanted him in previous years. I think the Jets were negotiating with him before negotiations broke down. So Matt Campbell has been a hot commodity in terms of head coaching, in terms of coaching. So I expect him now, especially with Iowa State having this great season and winning 7 of their last 8 games and winning their first Big 12 championship in or Big 12 regular season championship since 1912. I expect Matt Campbell to get a lot of interest, whether it's college with Michigan or Texas or in the NFL, because there's going to be a lot of openings in the NFL, and the Jets, they're going to open. And I believe the Jets, who were negotiating with Matt Campbell, the last time they had a coaching search before negotiations broke down, I expected Matt Campbell to be number one on the Jets' radar. So Iowa State, if they want to keep Matt Campbell, they better lock him up right now, or Matt Campbell is going to be gone before Iowa State plays their bowl game.
With that, folks, quick clarification. I had my numbers wrong here with it. Big 10, Big 12, but again, the Cyclones winning the Big 12 championship, or at least a spot in the Big 12 title game, not the Big 10 again. Confusing when you have two conferences in the same area with numbers and big in their names. So my apologies for that. The Big 12 title game, at least, for the Cyclones. And again, their first conference title won in football in almost 100 years with the Cyclones program. They win 45-3 over West Virginia. And again, hopefully that we'll see Brock Purdy put on one more show, or at least a couple more shows as time goes on. But also, more than anything else, I think Isaiah's right, though, that hopefully that the Cyclones can lock up Matt Campbell to a long-term extension maybe, or a long-term contract, and keep him out there on the Iowa State campus. Again, you would hate to see. I think, Isaiah, sadly, we see this a lot, though, man, where college coaches at some of these programs, like Iowa State, even U of H at Hawaii for a bit, or other programs who have, maybe a couple of good years, though, but their coaches get tempted, though, by other school offers, or the NFL comes calling. Isaiah, that's probably, I think, what I maybe hate the most. I should say hate, but I always feel bad the most for those, those very small, what they'd call mid-major universities who, again, have a very good year. But you see that coach, though, go elsewhere for more money or go to the pros. Do you agree or what?
Yeah, I agree with you. Just look at Scott Frost, with UCF. Scott Frost was so ingrained with UCF's program. He was so bought in with them. I mean, when he left, the dude was literally weeping on the sidelines when he left UCF to go to Nebraska. That's how heartbreaking it was for him to leave that program. I'm pretty sure he really wanted to stay, but when your alma mater comes calling and a place that you won a national championship as a player comes calling, there's no way you turn that down. So I agree with you. It really sucks when these mid-majors who are just tasting success for the first time, like Iowa State, then they lose their head coach and they're never the same. So it really sucks. I hope Iowa State locks up Matt Campbell, but I really don't see it, because I really I don't care how much money Iowa State throws at Matt Campbell. I don't think it's still going to keep him from the allure that is the National Football League and being one of the top 30, or being one of the 32 coaches in the National Football League.
And for that matter as well, probably maybe other colleges, again, maybe Texas, maybe Michigan, maybe a bigger, maybe more notable name comes calling. But again, folks, as mentioned, the Cyclones of Iowa State win over West Virginia handily, 45-3, the Cyclones all over the Mountaineers on this Saturday. And again, for the first time in a long time coming, 98 years, roughly almost 100 years, basically, for the Cyclones to win their first conference football title. They will again face off with, I believe, Oklahoma in the Big 12 championship game in about a week or so, coming up very shortly. With that, folks, to our next game on the schedule, another SEC rivalry game between the Alabama Crimson Tide and the LSU Tigers. Holy Toledo, this game was over at halftime as the Tide rolls again over the Tigers in Death Valley. 55-17, the Tide all over the Tigers. Isaiah, an absolutely flawless victory. This was Mortal Kombat. That'd be ruled a flawless victory by Mac Jones, Nick Saban, and the Crimson Tide, and also Ed Orgeron blowing gaskets on the sideline, left and right, with so many just breakdowns. And again, 45 points scored by the Tide at the half. Isaiah, if this was boxing, this match would have been called off at halftime with how bad of a score it was down there in Death Valley.
Oh, for Callan, for me, it was over at halftime. I turned it off after halftime. I was like, really, CBS, you put this on prime time, Saturday night at 5 p.m. Pacific time. You put on prime time, and when you're hyping the game up, you say, "Oh, this is a marquee game of the week. This is two Titans going at it." Really, two Titans going at it? A team that in Alabama that is 7-0 versus a team in LSU that's 3-4, and you call it two Titans going at it, and it ends up being 45-14 at the half. This game should have never been put on prime time. This game should have been put on the SEC on CBS's normal slot at 12 p.m. Pacific time, and they should have moved the Florida-Tennessee game up to 5 p.m. Pacific time because that game is more exciting than this Alabama LSU game. But about this game, Callan, I just got to say this. Devontae Smith, the wide receiver out of Alabama, he is an absolute cheat code. This guy, it's just unfair for other opposing defensive backs to have to guard him. Derek Stingley, who was the LSU corner who was in charge of guarding Devontae Smith today, who is one of the top corners in all of college football. He's going to probably be a top 10 pick when the NFL draft rolls around. That guy got steamrolled tonight against Devontae Smith. Devontae Smith tonight in this football game, he had 8 catches, 231 yards, and 3 touchdowns. And oh, by the way, guys, he had an Odell Beckham Jr. catch on a pass from Mac Jones that was sailing high towards the out of bounds in the end zone, and Devontae Smith, he just jumps up, makes a one-handed over-the-shoulder grab as he's falling down and reels it in. This dude is just unfair. He's going to be a top 5 pick in the NFL. I feel so bad for all the defenders that have to go after him because with him and John Mechie and Jaleel Billingsley, it's just an unfair challenge to have to keep up with these 3 great wide receivers. And then you have the running game with Najee Harris, who had 21 carries, 145 yards, and 3 touchdowns. And that was all those numbers that Najee Harris and Devontae Smith put up, those were in the first half alone. These guys didn't do anything in the second half. They didn't even play in the second half. That's how unfair it was. Alabama right now is truly the best team in college football. And Callan, as much as I hate to say it, you know how much I hate Alabama, but I think Alabama is on their way to another national title, and that pains me heavily.
You know, Isaiah, this is the first of all, LSU, reigning national champs, 29.5-point underdogs. That is, I believe, a stat that I saw on ESPN. This was the worst line in regards to points or the point favorites for a defending national champion, I think, like ever, basically. And sadly, Isaiah, it lived up to the lackluster affair that it was, but that Alabama is a fine-tuned, well-oiled machine, whether Nick Saban is on the sidelines coaching or not. The offense, again, 45 points in the first half, and again, this game was over at the, basically at halftime of this ball game. And also, folks, like we said, though, more so with this game, like I said, though, I don't believe, folks, we have seen a defending national champion, I think, in either college football, college basketball, or any other sport out there go through probably more torture in a season than probably LSU. There's probably a couple other ones out there that you probably can drop in the chat box for us. But I just don't think, though, I've seen a team like LSU, Isaiah, who we saw, of course, blitzkrieg everybody last season. And, of course, they win the national championship. But at the same time, though, man, just the fact, though, of seeing LSU, and seeing a defending national champion or defending champion in general, Isaiah, go from an all-time high a season before to an all-time low this season, man, talk about falling from the sky.
Yeah, it's crazy, man. It just shows you that last year it wasn't Ed Orgeron that won LSU that championship. It was Joe Burrow and Joe Brady, the offensive coordinator of LSU at that time, who is now the offensive coordinator with the Carolina Panthers and tearing it up with the Panthers. those two guys were the main guys responsible for getting LSU that national championship. Joe Brady, before he came to LSU, LSU's offense was atrocious. They were living in the Stone Age. They were just running. They were running the NFL-style offenses that Jim Harbaugh ran with the San Francisco 49ers, which is run it the first 2 times on first down and second down, and then on third down, throw 3-4-yard passes, and then that's it. Kind of what the Bears are running. Sorry, Callan, I just had to throw that in there. But that's what LSU was running, and then Joe Brady came in. He turns he completely revamps the offense, makes it into a spread offense, same offense that the New Orleans Saints are running, and you just see it. It's just unfair when you're running an NFL, like a modern-day NFL offense in college football. It's just not fair. That's what LSU did last season. Brady left for the NFL, and this offense is now back to the LSU offense of old, where they just run every first and second down, and then on third down, they just wing it for either 5 or 7 yard passes, and that's not going to cut it right now in modern day college football.
And also, especially when every member of your offense is graduated and gone to the NFL or they're somewhere else, that of course it'll take time to kind of rebuild that Tiger program down there in Death Valley. Casey King, Isaiah joins us to say that the Bama game was a joke. I think that you definitely agree with that. Do you?
100%, man. That game was awful. It should have never been on prime time. I don't even know why I spent one half watching that game. I mean, I should have turned it off after Alabama went up 21-0 in the first quarter. But I'll say this. I think what killed LSU was in the beginning when Alabama drove right down the field on its opening possession to take a 7-0 lead. LSU actually looked very good. They drove down the field right after Alabama drove down the field and scored. And I think they had it 3rd and 1 at the Alabama 15-yard line. Yeah, at the Alabama 15-yard line. And Ed Orgeron decides to run a power running play, and that play gets stuffed at the line of scrimmage. And then after that, LSU decides to go for it on 4th and 1, and they don't get it. They get stuffed. So a possession that could have potentially gotten you points ends up getting you 0. And on the very next possession, when Alabama takes over, they drive right down the field. 5 plays later, it's touchdown Alabama and a 14-0 lead.
And very quick touchdown drives too for the Tide as well. Again, as they went up 14-0, and it was basically all but over. But again, the Tide roll all over the Tigers in the Bayou, 55-17. The Tide over LSU. Next up, Isaiah, some Pac-12 action from Berkeley, California tonight as the Oregon Ducks took on the unranked and winless Cal Bears, and Cal's defense bends but doesn't break as they knock off Oregon, giving the Ducks their 2nd straight loss, 21-17. The Golden Bears take down Oregon from Memorial Stadium. As mentioned, though, 3 big turnovers in this ball game doomed the Ducks more so, Isaiah, the turnover, because I watched this game when I got back from work today. The turnover that obviously kills the Ducks today is the pass that was complete, but a phenomenal play by the Cal defender jars the ball free, and they're able to jump on it and close out the victory. As again, the Ducks were barely, I think, into Cal territory and were driving down the field, but also there was a fumble recovery earlier in the second half and another big-time turnover. So Cal's defense wins the game over Oregon. Isaiah, overall takeaways, though, more so about Oregon's loss, but more so about Cal's defense winning this game more so than I think Oregon actually losing this game.
Callan, I want us to press the fast forward button and fast forward from the next 3 college football games because I don't want to talk about any of them.
Bugs Bunny says no.
Listen, I don't know what's up with me, Callan. I think I really am a true jinx because everything I say immediately goes to the opposite. First of all, you go with Michigan. I say after one game, Michigan, oh yeah, Michigan, this is Jim Harbaugh's best team, and Michigan, they're going to go to the Big Ten championship, and they're going to beat Ohio State. What happens the very next week? Michigan loses to Michigan State, a program that just lost its head coach to retirement, and a program that the week before they lost to Rutgers, one of the worst teams in college football. And then you move to Oregon, the team that I said before the season that Oregon was the runaway favorites to win the Pac-12. And what do the Ducks go and do? They beat Washington State. I believe they beat Utah as well. Then they struggled against UCLA. Then they lose to a team that they have been owning for the last 10 years in the Oregon State Beavers. And then they follow that up with losing to winless Cal. Are you serious, Oregon? Like, Callan, maybe like we should put some tape over my mouth and just have me to stop making predictions, because everything I say immediately goes to the opposite. But the Ducks are a disgrace. This was like, listen, all the credit in the world goes to Cal's defense, but Oregon, you're better than this, man. You have better players than them. Your offense is electric, and for your offense to not show up against a winless team, a team that has been in their first 3 games of the season, they've been battered in their first 3 games of the season, whether it's injuries or COVID or just getting completely curb stomped. For you to lose to Cal is very, very embarrassing. And for you to also turn the football over 3 times, and in the final possession, get the first down and the ball is jarred out. It's just really embarrassing, man. And, it's the Ducks. Callan, I think we need the Ducks, the Oregon Ducks. They need to they shouldn't even be allowed to go back on the team bus. They should have to walk back from Berkeley tonight after this pathetic of a performance.
I really would say it was pathetic, but I think more so it was a game, though, that I think is obviously an offensive failure 3 times in this ball game. But that Cal, of course, has been a program that has been, in a way, maybe a bottom feeder, not really, at the pinnacle of the North Division of the Pac-12 Conference. And you're talking about Washington, Washington State, Oregon, obviously, Colorado, and Utah, those schools. But at the same time, though, Cal, more so tonight, showed what they're capable of when they actually are clicking on all cylinders. Now, again, of course, I think that they probably had, worse feeling, I think, both teams coming off of rivalry game losses. The Bears, though, lose on a blocked PAT that would have tied the game against Stanford, nonetheless, about a week or so ago. And, of course, their defense has been somewhat good. Offense has, in a way, also been good. But, it's either one side's been great and the other one's been bad, or vice versa. But tonight, I think that more so the credit has to go to Cal winning this game more than Oregon losing it, because, here Oregon's driving down the field to win the game. They're losing 21-17. And they get the first down, as Isaiah said, that with that pass that was caught. But a great play, though, by the Cal defender, jars the ball free, and the Bears can recover, or do recover, to win the ball game. And again, send the Ducks to back-to-back losses as again, Cal takes down the Oregon Ducks at Memorial Stadium in Berkeley, 21-17. The Bears take down the Oregon Ducks. With that in mind, Isaiah Casey writes in, he thinks that Washington, despite their loss tonight to Stanford, will win the Pac-12 North Division. Oregon has been exposed, and they are done. And also love the fact that Cal beat them as well. Isaiah, I don't know, though, man, because this Pac-12 now, the North Division has become very, very interesting as the last week or so of the season does roll around.
Yeah, I completely agree with you, Cal, and I don't know who's going to win the Pac-12 North, because today Washington was, I believe, a double-digit favorite against Stanford, and they lose. Yeah, Stanford it was not, listen, I know the score was 31-26, but Stanford had a 24-3 lead at halftime, and Washington, they rallied back, but they fell short. And Washington, they haven't really looked impressive this entire season. You talk about what Washington did last week. I believe it was against, I think I might be wrong on this. Oh, it was against Utah. They were down double digits at halftime again, and they should have lost that game, but Utah, they just couldn't get out of their own way. And they ended up choking that game to Washington. So Washington, they got to get their act together if they want to win that Pac-12 North, because you cannot be down double digits like you've been down the last 2 games and expect to win any games moving forward. Oregon, like we mentioned earlier, they just lost to California. Or they lost to Cal and they lost to Oregon State. And then you look at the other teams, like I'm just not I don't really know out of the Pac-12 North teams. I don't know who's going to be able to come out of it. That Oregon-Washington game next week, that's going to be very telling into whom wins the Pac-12 North.
It's going to be very intriguing. And again, folks, I was trying to pull up the standings for the Pac-12 right now. We can kind of, in a way, discuss this a bit. So Isaiah right now in the North Division, per Google at least, but this is what we got in the North Division right now. Washington, Oregon, Oregon State, Stanford, Wazoo, Cal. So right now you're looking at Washington and Colorado perhaps playing each other in the conference title game at this juncture.
I don't know about Colorado. I still think USC takes the Pac-12 South. I think USC is just a better team with better athletes and a dynamic quarterback in Keaton Slovis. So I would give USC right now the edge over Colorado in the Pac-12 South. And also, like, if USC can get out of its own way, Clay Helton and that coaching staff don't mess up and just let the players play and let the players win you games, then I think USC will be fine. But for me, I'm not ready to jump on that bandwagon of Colorado just yet, because if you look at the opponents that they played, I believe, UCLA, right? And then I think they played Utah, but Utah hasn't really been that good this season. I really wanted to see how they would look against USC before judging if they're for real or not. So I have to see a little bit more from Colorado before I actually say, Colorado can match up with USC in the Pac-12 South.
And Colorado also played San Diego State at home in Boulder, beat them 20-10. And also, Isaiah should mention that game was only scheduled between the Aztecs and the Buffaloes because USC had COVID issues and they couldn't play that game. So the one chance we had to see them play, off the board because of COVID. But again, folks, it is Cal taking down the Oregon Ducks in Berkeley, 21-17, the Bears over the Ducks. I think, Isaiah, the game of the night, game of the week, game of the year for that matter, the BYU Cougars in Coastal Carolina. 2 9-0 ball clubs. This game scheduled, literally put together on Thursday, taking place down there in South Carolina. It is Coastal Carolina from the Sun Belt Conference, probably with their biggest football victory in their program's very short FBS or FCS history. 22-17, Coastal Carolina and their awesome mascot that I can't even pronounce what it is. I read about it, though, but I can't really pronounce it. But either way, CCU wins over BYU 22-17 as the final drive for the Cougars is stopped at the 1-yard line as the final seconds tick off the clock to, again, win this ball game for Coastal Carolina over a very, very obviously impressive BYU ball club and, of course, their quarterback in Zach Wilson. But Isaiah, I do think, though, but sadly, or maybe not sadly, but I do think, though, man, that I think a lot of people out there that probably, I think, saw how BYU has carried themselves throughout the course of the season, minus you, of course, but seeing, the arrogance and the whole, doing, like dusting off the shoulders because they beat some school from North Alabama 66-14. Then he had the whole mantra of, anyone, anywhere, any place, anytime. And you also have Zach Wilson doing his best Jim McMahon impersonation with that written on a headband before this ball game. And I think that Trevor and myself said it best. So you even said it, though, as well, though, man, that this would fire up or at least kind of be, in a way, some billboard material, whiteboard material for Coastal Carolina. I think, though, man, that for a program like CCU, again, not a very well-known program, just kind of getting their feet wet in the past couple years at this level of college football, this might be one of the, if not perhaps in my mind, their biggest win of their time playing football at this level. But Isaiah, thrilling game, exciting game, probably the better game of the day, the week, and probably in my mind, I think a lot of people would agree, though, the best game of the entire year so far. Isaiah, what do you got for us?
Press that button, Callan. Press that button. Listen, I've been one of, if not probably the biggest cheerleader aboard the BYU should make the playoffs bandwagon. And you and John Mathis and other guys here on our network had, been laughing at me and saying, yeah, Isaiah, BYU is not going to make the playoffs because they beat North Alabama, they beat Boise State, they beat San Diego State, and their schedule is right there. That's the winning look right there from Callan, or the I told you so look. But I thought that Coastal Carolina was going to win this game. I picked them last night on No BS to win because BYU, this game had been scheduled on Thursday. It was like 2 days before the game was actually played. So for them to have to all of a sudden pack their bags and travel from Utah to Florida in just 2 days and get ready for the game, that's very, very tough to do. If BYU had gotten a normal week to practice and get ready for it, I think they would have had a better performance. But you're right, Callan. This was a great, great game. This game was very entertaining. Both sides put on a show. But it ended up, coming down to being like the Super Bowl from the 90s where the Titans player, gets stopped at the 1 to give the Rams the Super Bowl. It was just like this. This game should have been the one on prime time on CBS, not that Alabama LSU game. But my biggest takeaway from this game is that Zach Wilson might be a fraud because when you looked at how he was playing, the offensive line couldn't really protect him that well tonight because Coastal Carolina kept bringing the blitz. They kept bringing the pressure, and Zach Wilson kept wilting under pressure. Every time there was pressure in his face, he looked very, very uncomfortable, sailing passes over wide receivers' heads, throwing passes out of bounds when he had open guys. I just think that Zach Wilson, he might be a fraud, and all that talk the last couple of weeks of, Zach Wilson should be a top 5 pick or a top 10 pick. Hold on to there for a second. Let's see how Zach Wilson does against teams that love to blitz, because if tonight's performance showed, it's kind of alarming that he really looked uncomfortable tonight in this game. But Callan, go ahead. The floor is yours. You can gloat all you want, because now the dream of BYU shocking the entire college football playoff and destroying the college football playoff system, making the playoffs. And even I had this dream that they were going to, who knows, not only make the playoffs, but win the national title. All of that is dead, gone, goodbye. So the floor is yours, my man. You can gloat all you want.
BYU is independent, like I've said over the past several programs here to this guy on the right of my screen. There would be no way that a schedule that they played this season, minus this game, maybe minus the Boise State game, would outweigh any other team like A&M, Ohio State, Michigan even, Notre Dame or Alabama, because of the lack of games that they'd be able to play against those opponents due to the nature of COVID. But also, something that I think a lot of people would agree with, even Isaiah, has kind of been the whole, more so for me, like how John Mathis is about the Padres, Isaiah, is how BYU carries themselves on the field in regards to the antics, the arrogance, the showboating. And more so, I think that for me, it goes the route, I think, and I know, of course, about let the kids play, and I totally get that, but more so the whole anywhere, any place, any time thing, and also Zach Wilson emulating the last great Bears quarterback, Jim McMahon, who's also a BYU alum, with the headband saying that slogan is like, that is the last thing you need to do is fire up an opponent. And especially, I think, an opponent, though, that just transitioned a few years ago into the FBS system. And by the way, folks, I have that now. It is the Coastal Carolina Chanticleers. That is the name of their mascot. It is a different type of rooster, basically, is what they are. But either way, for CCU, though, this, I think, though, is probably their greatest if not their biggest victory of all time in their program history. And here's that evidence, folks, that Isaiah wanted to show of Zach Wilson in the headband. It says any team, time and place. We're again somewhat emulating the late great, or at least great, BYU quarterback in Jim McMahon. But again, Isaiah, sadly, BYU was a great story. But I think though it's that with this game, though, this I think knocks some common sense into Zach Wilson, and I think also into that BYU football program as well. But at the same time, though, they're probably going to get a New Year's Day 6 game at this rate. They're probably going to have to fill in voids or fill in holes, perhaps, because of the ongoing situation. But at least though, for Coastal Carolina, though, you talk about defensive pressure, and their head coach, even after the game, was very emotional, saying that that their D-line is like very not sized, like they're not big, they're not tall, but they grind and they get the job done inside. And I think he was more proud about how they played more than the entire team in general. But also, I think that was probably, if anyone caught this game, that may have been the most exciting final drive that you probably have seen in recent college football memory. Again, it was obviously, a game that was on ESPNU because of other games that were in fact on the schedule. But Zach Wilson, though, drives this team, no timeouts, drives them to the brink of victory. And it's the Titans in the Super Bowl, Sally. They're a yard short. Because when I first actually saw the play, Isaiah, I thought the guy had reached out and put the ball across the plane for the touchdown. But I saw the hit again in a slow motion, thinking, Steve McNair's up there somewhere, watching this play and thinking, not again does this happen to another team in pro or college football, man. 1 yard short was BYU of going to 10-0.
Couple things, Callan. Number one, I want to petition college football to eliminate the last yard in, like, when it comes to the football field. Let's have 99 yards instead of 100. I mean, that would make life so much easier. Maybe the NFL thing.
Isaiah, this isn't Canadian Football League, buddy.
But, about Zach Wilson's headband, the anytime team in place thing. Even though I'm a huge fan of Zach Wilson, I think he's going to be an electric quarterback in the NFL after what I saw last year against USC. I'm probably one of the biggest fans of BYU because I just like to see non-Power 5 teams have success and make the playoffs and, shock the world. But even I had been growing irritated with that headband because there have been reports that Ohio State had looked into playing BYU when one of their games got canceled, but BYU declined that invitation. And also Washington. When Washington, I think a couple of weeks ago, one of their games got canceled, they were in deep talks to get BYU to play them, but BYU said no. So I was like, if you're saying on your headband and you're posting on posters everywhere, anytime, any team, any place, and Ohio State says we'll pay you to come play us, and Washington, come play us, and you decline, that just shows me that you're not all about that anytime, any team, any place business.
And I think, Isaiah, that's what I think has rubbed people the wrong way about BYU, has been how, in fact, the team, but more so the quarterback. Again, I'm calling Zach Wilson Jim McMahon 2.0 because he lets his mouth do all, obviously runs his mouth a lot and then pops off with something like this as well. Because as we all remember, at least if you probably don't know, Jim McMahon roasted the commissioner of the NFL with writing his name on his headband back in the 85 playoffs. And again, more so with that. But again, folks, a great game, though. And again, I know we've been kind of piling on BYU, though. But again, congratulations, though, to Coastal Carolina. Again, the Chanticleers, again, with a phenomenal victory. Again, 22-17. BYU faltering to Coastal Carolina. Again, and maybe BYU has to rethink that anytime, any place, anywhere mantra. Maybe it's time to throw that in the trash. And time for Zach Wilson to get a brand new headband, as Isaiah writes in, Mayfield 2.0. Sorry, Ryan, parentheses. And that, folks, brings me to a valid point, though. Vote. You can vote in in the ongoing bracket challenge. Of course, folks, here right now at this rate, day 6 of the 31 days of hot takes challenge going on right now on MI6 on the MI6 Sports Network Facebook page. Folks, cast those votes. We'll have the results for you at the end of the show. Casey King agrees more so about Carolina's victory over Brigham Young. Go Coastal Carolina. BYU, another fraud. Coastal Carolina, a fun team to watch. So glad they beat BYU. Now, I will say, though, the only good thing about when BYU does play USD here, mainly in volleyball, believe it or not, more so than basketball, but even I think any sport that BYU plays USD, I get a great crowd when fans are allowed here. And I recall when BYU came here to San Diego to play the Toreros last season, it was a game that kind of put the conference title in the balance because we had beaten them, we being USD. Like, I'm sound like Isaiah saying we, and I play for the team when I do not. But that USD had gone to play the Cougars in Provo and beat them in 5. If we would have beaten them in San Diego, that would have given us more of our own destiny to win the conference title. And I remember the gym being sold out, 5,100 people at the Jenny Craig Pavilion. But with all the BYU fans in there, though, it does add a layer of, a giant layer of energy that you feed off of if you're playing the game or if you're working the game, as I was that night, and having all their fans basically behind you, where I sit during the course of actual games when fans are allowed inside the building, is those are the games that I look forward to the most with BYU, Gonzaga, St. Mary's, San Diego State, even when fans are allowed in, though. So I will, in fact, give BYU some of the due diligence here with, again, how they do, in fact, bring their fans to games here in San Diego. Casey writes about his own experience. He says, I went to see the Trojans play the Cougars in '04 up in Provo, and their fan base was cocky as hell and stuck up and loved it when USC beat them and ran their fans out of their own stadium. Fans have no class. That's why I can't stand BYU. I think a lot of people feel the same exact way. Though my parents have a good story, though. When the Holiday Bowl first started many years ago, back in the 70s, BYU came here when they were in the WAC, and I think they played in the first 7 Holiday Bowls in San Diego. And a lot of, especially my parents, they got sick and tired of seeing BYU. But there was a time that my parents had gone to a game, though, and my dad locked his keys in their car at the stadium, and they were trying to get some help. And believe it or not, some very nice BYU fans came and actually helped out get the keys out of the car. So I think with any fan base, though, Isaiah, you have your good apples and your bad apples in pro sports, or for that matter, college sports as well.
Yeah, I totally agree with you. I've met, I work for the A's, and normally A's fans are probably like one of the nicest fan bases in the world because, we don't really draw a lot of fans. We have a 70,000 seat stadium, and normally we have like 10,000 or 15,000 fans come for a typical game day. And I just remember, I think it was a game against the Mariners, I believe. Yeah, the Mariners. And, A's fans, as I said earlier, they're very, very nice. Most of them that you meet around the stadium, they're very helpful in helping you find food or find where the team store is around the stadium. But in this situation, I think it was Edwin Encarnacion that was coming to the plate. Yeah, it was Encarnacion, and then on deck was Domingo Santana. I don't know if I'm saying his name correctly or not, but it was Encarnacion and then Santana. And I remember, I heard a couple of A's fans that were sitting by the third base field level. They started chanting Osama bin Laden at Edwin Encarnacion and Domingo Santana. And I'm just like thinking in my head, like, what the hell are you guys doing, man? First of all, why do you guys have to turn anything political? And secondly, that's hella inappropriate because, dude, they're ball players. They're ball players. They've got families, and for you guys to, chant names of terrorists at them is just really, really inappropriate. Thankfully, the police right next to me heard the same thing and kicked them out of the stadium because none of that is none of that is acceptable at any sporting event, much less A's games.
Yikes, that's oof. We'll move on from that one. That was very rough. Also, Casey says BYU is all talk. They've been that way, I'd say, for a majority, if not, I think as long as I've been watching college sports. But, Isaiah, I know that I probably, have maybe twisted my story about, it's okay for the Dodgers to do this, but the Padres can't do this. And now I am blasting BYU. But at the same time, though, if you're going to talk, man, you got to back it up, though, right?
1000%. That's why I was starting to get ticked off with BYU is you can talk, but you gotta back it up. And for you to get invites from Ohio State and Washington, and for you to go out on the media and even put those headbands on, saying anytime, any team, any place, we're not scared of anybody. And then when Ohio State says, "Hey, we're willing to pay you," and they knock on the door, you're like, "Nope," slam the door shut and start to hide. It's like, come on, man, really?
Chardol points out, Isaiah, that apparently that they took the slogan of the old Fear Factor TV series on NBC where he says, "Do not attempt this act anywhere, any place, anytime." So maybe it's a play on words from Fear Factor. Did you happen to watch Fear Factor at all when you were when it was on TV?
I don't think I did. I think that was past my time.
I remember seeing it a couple times. Because I can handle that kind of stuff, but at the same time, it's like, what are you thinking? Basically. But again, folks, it is BYU faltering to Coastal Carolina. Great game tonight, 22-17. Coastal Carolina over the BYU Cougars. Last game, Isaiah, for the games of the day in the Mountain West Conference. The surprisingly unbeaten San Jose State Spartans remain unbeaten on top of the Mountain West Conference table. They hold off your beloved Hawaii Rainbow Warriors 35-24 in their ball game today over in Honolulu at Aloha Stadium as the Spartans, Isaiah, continue a very insane start to the regular season out there in San Jose. But of course, I believe, though, Isaiah, there was some rumblings, though. I had heard, though, via the Colorado State SDSU game on CBS Sports, on a CBS Sports Network, that apparently that San Jose State, due to the Santa Clara County restrictions in place, and they may not be able to host any games for the next couple of weeks, sadly. But Isaiah, San Jose State, though, man, takes down your beloved Hawaii Rainbow Warriors, though. But at the same time, though, Isaiah, San Jose State, number one right now in the Mountain West Conference for football. Talking about a great turnaround right now up there in San Jose right now. But Isaiah, your thoughts on this game as your beloved Bows fall to the Spartans of San Jose State University?
Here's my thoughts, Callan. Forward times 30. Please, I'm begging you. Let's fast forward times 30, please. I don't want to talk about this game. First of all, I got to say this. Chardot Gupta, congratulations on your San Jose State Spartans. You guys were clearly the better team. You guys ran the football very well. You guys passed the football very well. Your offense was just a juggernaut today. Hawaii just couldn't stop anybody, couldn't stop San Jose State on defense. But about Hawaii, I'll just say this. Hawaii is
not the same.
Wait, what?
They're not the same program that they once were.
They're not the same program that they once were. They're not the same program that they were last year. Hawaii is a football team that relies heavily on throwing the football in the air. You know, they have great wide receivers. They have a great quarterback in Chevin Cordero. But their defense has been their Achilles heel, even dating back to the June Jones, Cope Brennan days. And you guys remember Hawaii's defense, they don't really have a vaunted defense. Their defense is bend, don't break. And when you're playing a team that is an offensive juggernaut like San Jose State, you cannot afford to play bend, don't break defense and spot San Jose State a 21-0 lead and expect to win the game. That's not going to happen. Hawaii was down 21-0 in this game. They started passing the ball a lot. They couldn't really get the running game going because, you can't afford to run the football when you're down that much. Hawaii did cut that lead in half in the second quarter. But it was just too little, too late. The offense was really good, but they just couldn't stop anybody on defense. And that is why Hawaii right now has a losing record, because if you look at all the games that they've played, they just cannot stop anybody. I think Wyoming put up a lot of points on them. San Jose State put up a lot of points on them. Boise State put up 40-plus points on them. That game was a blowout. It wasn't even close, no matter how close the score indicates. So Hawaii, if they really want to be Mountain West championship contenders, they got to fix that defense, because we know the offense is going to be good. it's just how far Hawaii goes will be dictated upon how well the defense plays.
Isaiah, as a quick reminder, or maybe not a reminder, but a refresher here, folks, and due to, again, COVID issues, they are not doing divisional play in the Mountain West Conference this season. It's a free-for-all in the Mountain West this year, so there's no West Division or Mountain Division. It's everyone for themselves. Isaiah, here's the standings right now. San Jose State, the only unbeaten team in conference play right now. Boise State at 2. They lost to BYU, of course. That's not a division conference game, though, so they're still 4-0 inside the conference. Nevada, Reno, San Diego State, Fresno State, Air Force, Wyoming, Hawaii, Colorado State, Utah, New Mexico, UNLV. So right now you're looking at the Spartans perhaps hosting Boise State for the Mountain West Championship game. But Isaiah, from reports gathered from Rich Waltz and Aaron Taylor on the CBS Sports Network broadcast tonight, per reports that they had discussed during the Rams-Aztecs game from Carson tonight, is that they had heard reports that San Jose State would be flying from Honolulu into Vegas, and I believe perhaps playing games in Vegas, either at Sam Boyd Stadium or at Allegiant, due to, again, the nature of the new orders in place by the Santa Clara County mayor's office due to, again, COVID restrictions in the state of California. But Isaiah, just think of that, though. San Jose State has not been probably one of the more, great programs in the Mountain West Conference, currently unbeaten and perhaps hosting the conference title game against the almighty Boise State Broncos. What a year.
What a year, man, Callan. And I'll tell you this, Shardo Gupta, one of our top fans here on the MI6 Sports Network, he is never going to let me hear the end of it, of how San Jose State beat the heck out of my Hawaii Rainbow Warriors. So, Callan, you might not even see me for the next couple of weeks because I might have to go into hiding until the next time San Jose State plays Hawaii.
Simple answer. No.
I'll see y'all in October of next year.
That's not going to happen anytime soon. But again, folks, San Jose State defeats Hawaii 35-24 as the Spartans remain undefeated. And again, looking at a potential chance of hosting the Mountain West Championship game with Boise State. But we'll see, though, folks, how things play out over the next week or two. With that, Isaiah, some top headlines today. Of course, the Tennessee Volunteers have not been perhaps known for football prowess over the past several seasons. Of course, Isaiah, this is a school that, again, has been pretty much known, though, mainly for Peyton Manning on the football field, Bruce Pearl in those orange suits on the for men's basketball, and, of course, the late, great, God bless her soul, Pat Summitt and her 8 women's basketball national championships, of course, in the rafters at TBA in Knoxville. And, of course, Isaiah, it's not the best of times right now for the volunteer football program. Isaiah, the question here is that Jeremy Pruitt has lost his 6th straight game for the Vols. Is it time for UT to can Coach Pruitt and move on into a new direction because of how the Vol season has kind of, in a way, spiraled big time out of control once again in Knoxville?
This might be controversial, but I think it is because when you look at Tennessee, right? Tennessee, what's the main problem that has been plaguing the Jeremy Pruitt era? The big problem has been they don't know they don't have a quarterback at Tennessee. And I think one of the reasons why they don't have a quarterback is because Jeremy Pruitt has badly mishandled the quarterback situation in his 3 seasons as the head coach at Tennessee. You look at Jared Guantanamo, who when Jeremy Pruitt took over, he was, I believe, a junior. Yeah, he was a junior there at Tennessee. They had another freshman there. They had a sophomore quarterback there. And Jeremy Pruitt, in his first year, this was already a problem. He would just be rotating quarterbacks. Like the Jared Guantanamo would start a game, and then he would play like 2 quarters. If he made a mistake, he would get yanked immediately. Then they put in the freshman, and then if he makes a mistake, 5 players later, you would see another quarterback. It's like it's like a quarterback carousel there at Tennessee. Like every single game, you have different quarterbacks shuffling in and out. And then this season, you look at Jared Guantanamo, fifth-year senior. He starts the season. He plays 2 games, 2 wins. And then against Georgia, what happens? They had a great first half against Georgia where they were only down 21-14. And then in the second half, everything spiraled under control. And Jeremy Pruitt, he decides to bench Jared Guantanamo in the third quarter after he threw one pick, and he was benched. And then someone else comes in, and then that guy finishes the game. And then the following week, that guy starts the game, and then he does bad, and then at halftime he gets benched. Guantanamo comes in, he finishes the game. It's like every single game Tennessee has a starter, but the starter, they just don't finish the game. And Harrison Bailey, who made it, I think he was the freshman. He made his first start today for the Tennessee Volunteers, and he was 14 of 21, 111 yards passing, 1 touchdown in his very first game, and they took him out in the third quarter with 2 minutes left, and Tennessee down 31-7. I know you're down 31-7, and you're probably going to lose the game, but a lot of people on Twitter and Instagram and Facebook, they were clamoring for Jeremy Pruitt to put the kid back in, because what do you have to lose at this point? You're 2-5. You're about to be 2-6. You're down 31-7. Let the kid get the reps that he needs to feel confident moving forward. Every time you bench a quarterback, it's like they don't have any confidence when they come in. It's like a reliever, right? A reliever comes in, or a starter. A starter starts the game. He gives up a hit. And then the manager immediately decides, oh, yeah, you have to – or no, let's go back to the reliever part. The reliever comes in, he gives up a hit, and then the manager immediately takes him out. And then that's why – or the manager has someone warming up in the bullpen and getting ready to take him out. And then the guy ends up being very shaky to the next batter because he doesn't have any confidence that – the manager will let him continue to pitch. That's the same issue right now with what's going on in Tennessee. Jeremy Pruitt has badly mismanaged the quarterback situation. You cannot have a quarterback come in come in every game and expect to win a game. That's not how football works. You have to stick with one quarterback, and you have to ride with him through the good and the bad, and Jeremy Pruitt just hasn't done that. And I believe if he doesn't get fired, I believe that these 3 quarterbacks at Tennessee, their development is going to hurt if he doesn't get fired, if he continues to use the same system.
And the last thing you want to see is a college program like Tennessee become the Niners or the Bears, where you have, quarterbacks, up and down the depth chart, and they're being used in so many different situations. But also, Isaiah, I would think, though, but it's more so that Tennessee just does not have the right coach or the right pieces in place either, because, as mentioned, you're in the SEC, of course, and you're being owned every year by Florida and Georgia and, of course, Alabama. Big bad Alabama always, pretty much whoops Tennessee. But also that I think that football, in a way, in my mind, is not on the mind of Vols fans anymore. At least in my mind, it hasn't been with the success of either women's hoops over the past several years, throughout Pat Summitt's career, even now to Kelly Harper's time, or even with the men's basketball team. They've always been, that more so, Isaiah, and try to say this a lot, though, about Kansas, and I know that a lot. I have some friends that are K-State fans who, it's like, oh, we beat you in football. It's like, but KU does not care about football. Tennessee, in my mind, Isaiah, is the same exact way, where they don't care enough about football to really, I think, make those moves and really, I think, bring in either top recruits or bring in a new coach, in my mind.
Yeah, I agree with you. Tennessee football has been irrelevant for the last 10, 15 years. They haven't been the worst team in the SEC, but they've been a middle team in the SEC. For them, it's always about getting just the winning records and just getting to the bowl game. But unfortunately, if you look at their fan base demands the success of Florida or Georgia or even in Alabama at Tennessee, and you're not going to get that anymore, man. That's not how Tennessee is. Like, that was probably Tennessee back when Peyton Manning played in the early 90s, but that's not how Tennessee is now. So you're going to have to accept the fact that you're not going to be national title contenders each and every year. So, like, I think that's why, like, that's what's the problem with Tennessee. It's that their fan base has ridiculous expectations. The athletic director right now is Philip Fulmer, who was their national championship winning head coach back in the early 90s, but he's not fit to be an athletic director. They only hired him because remember when Tennessee went through that coaching search a couple of years ago, it was just such a big mess. They fired their athletic director before their coach even got hired. It was a gigantic mess that they decided to elevate Philip Fulmer to athletic director so he could be like kind of like the focal point of the program. But that's not how you run an athletic program. You have to bring in someone that has experience being an athletic director to run that program, or else like all of your football program is going to go down the drain. Just look at USC. You know, Lynn Swann, right? We talked off the air, Callan, about Lynn Swann giving Clay Helton that terrible extension. Well, Lynn Swann, he shouldn't even have been the athletic director in the first place. All the guy did was go down to his golf course in Atlanta and go golfing. He was never around USC except when they played football at the Los Angeles Memorial Coliseum on Saturday. He was never there for the day-to-day job, and that's what Philip Fulmer is. He's never there for the day-to-day job.
More so in my mind too, Isaiah, there's three programs that really could care less about how their football program does, in my mind. Tennessee, Kansas, and UConn, because those three, I think, could care less about football. Yeah, they get blown out or they lose every game, but they're a basketball school. As simple as that. And I know that probably some people don't care about college basketball or in general care about, but at the same time, though, that's what they're known for. And, you know, and even if someone was to ask me about Kansas football, UConn football, or even Tennessee football, I say, I don't watch those three programs. I watch them play basketball because that's what they're known for. And that's what you want to see more than anything else. Some thoughts here real quick. Isaiah, Casey writes into first, say, Tennessee needs a house cleaning. It's been that way for a while, though, sadly, in my mind. Angel writes in, Tennessee was back building on last season, lost to Georgia, and have not won a game ever since. Also, Casey writes in, the Vols look like a bunch of Higgins for years. Isaiah, can I ask what the whole deal is between you and Casey and your boy Higgins?
I don't even know, man. I just know that Casey said, I think he asked me a couple of weeks ago on the Midnight Express, is Higgins my running back? And I thought it was T. Higgins. I think it might be a reference to something else. So, Casey, if you're watching right now, please comment down below in the comment box and, clarify what the term Higgins means, because it has me and Callan confused. But Callan, I want to go back to, I think it was Angel's comment about Tennessee and Georgia. You see that comment over there? The reason why Tennessee hasn't been the same since they lost to Georgia is because they started this whole quarterback carousel thing that I talked about when I talked about Jeremy Pruitt, where they just keep shuffling quarterbacks in and out depending on if they're putting up good results or not. You can't do that when you're coaching a football team. You have to stick with one guy and let him ride it out through the good and the bad. They did that for the first two games with Jared Guantanamo being the starter. But then ever since then, it's been one guy comes in, and then the second half, another guy comes in. And then the next game, someone else starts. And then like the second half, another guy comes in. You just can't have that. Pick a guy and ride it out.
Simple as that. Don't become like the Niners or Bears, please. Isaiah and I have to deal enough with that already as is. Don't change your apples and become that way. But yes, we would love for Casey to clarify the Higgins comment, because I'm not confused. I laugh at it because it's kind of like, they look like a bunch of Higgins, basically. Or no, the Higgins thing, though, is just, it's comical is all it is, more than confusing. Angel also says the Vols at one point were the king of the SEC before Bama dominated the conference. At one point they were, back when they, of course, had Peyton Manning. Also, Angel writes in with plenty of thoughts as well. He writes, I didn't know what disappointed Tennessee or LSU, I don't know what disappointed more, Tennessee losing, I'm guessing, or LSU gone from national champ to not even a bowl game. Probably more so LSU in my mind than Tennessee's play over the course of the year. Angel also adds on, not just that, but between LSU, Tennessee, Florida, and Georgia, the SEC used to be competitive. Again, Alabama, of course, joins the party, and it's all said and done. And also, great point here by Angel Isaiah. Tennessee stopped caring about football when Peyton Manning left. They hired Lane Kiffin, and we all know what happened with him at USC. Again, I'll see it again, but Tennessee, Kansas, and UConn, they're not football schools. Enough with the garbage takes of those three schools caring about their football programs. Isaiah, back over to you.
Callan, the only time Tennessee fans actually care about football is when they have coaching searches, because every time they have a coaching search, what's the one name that pops up? John Gruden. They had been wanting John Gruden for the last three coaching searches before he joined the Raiders. That's why when Greg Schiano got the job, right, and then the fans decided to do a mass protest and had so much backlash that Greg Schiano ended up didn't getting the job. The reason being was they really wanted John Gruden. You had guys like Clay Travis and a bunch of Tennessee boosters out there that were putting out this fake news on Twitter. Oh, we just met with John Gruden. We offered him a contract. John Gruden is coming, ladies and gentlemen. John Gruden is coming, this and that. And it got the fan base excited. And when they saw that December morning, breaking news, it was Tennessee is hiring Greg Schiano, the fans rioted because they saw it wasn't John Gruden.
Tennessee football story, sadly, right there in a nutshell. Angel also writes in, that's why teams should not hire fan favorite players to become head coaches or work in the front office, as we've already said plenty of times. And also, Angel says, similar to what Steve Spurrier had done when he coached Washington. Pat Ramsey won the job, and Spurrier gave the job to his Florida quarterback. Same old song and dance right there.
Yeah, it is, man. I just pick a guy and ride with him. That's all we ask.
That's all we ask is some consistency too. And if it's not bad play or the quarterback not doing his job, then you bench him. With that in mind, Isaiah, some college basketball news. Rick Pitino, of course, after 3 years away from the game due to, sadly, again, the ramifications of plenty of allegations during his time at Louisville, wins his first college basketball game in 3 years as the head coach now of the Iona College Gales. They win their game today for Rick's first victory in college hoops in over 3 years. Isaiah, we had said this, though, man, in quite a while, or a couple of times here, in regards to college basketball in a way with scandals. We talked about, maybe Kansas having some issues, USC, and we had that very big report, though, about 9 schools being docked with, a letter of allegations in regards to money being paid under material to these players by boosters, alumni, sponsors, coaches, a lot of different moving parts. I think that Sally, man, that Rick Pitino was, I think, probably one of the harder hit coaches, though, where, again, he has to leave Louisville, where, again, we know him very well for his time coaching college basketball at Louisville. And now he's working at Iona College and leading that program to its first, to his first victory in 3 years. And kind of in a way, Isaiah, it's kind of like, it's one of those how the mighty have fallen. But at the same time, Isaiah, maybe for a coach like Rick Pitino, I'm not saying this about Gino Auriemma, Coach K, Roy Williams, but maybe for a coach like Pitino, again, known very well for his time at one big school, though, maybe, though, it might be a good idea for a coach who wants to get back into the game after, again, a year ban, 2-year ban, or a 3-year probation, to go to a mid-major or a lesser-known university, kind of in a way give that school like Iona a chance to probably enjoy a season and also kind of give them some hope, but also a big name at a mid-major school or a lesser-name program. I think, Isaiah, just adds more parity to the game of college basketball, men's or women's, in my mind. But, Isaiah, your thoughts on Coach Pitino's first college basketball victory in 3 years for Coach Pitino at Iona?
Well, Callan, I'm a man of second chances, and I believe that Rick Pitino deserves a second chance. We all make mistakes in life, so he deserves a second chance, and I'm glad that he's getting it with Iona. It's a I think it's a mid-major program, I believe. Yeah, I think it's a mid-major program. So I mean, I like it because like you said, it gives the fans of Iona who haven't really had that much basketball success something to cheer about, especially in a year in 2020. It's very, very important that you actually get some positivity out of this year. And also, I think it's good because Rick Pitino and Iona, I think it's good for him because Rick Pitino is a very controversial figure, just like Lane Kiffin. So for them to be in a small market, it's a good thing because it helps them stay on the low and also helps them not, the things that they say or the things that they do not be, engulfed by the media, making it like one of the biggest talking points in sports.
Absolutely, and again, more so, I look at it more so through the the retrospect of that mid-major conference. Again, I work in the West Coast Conference, Isaiah. We have Mark Few coaching in Gonzaga, again, who has the Bulldogs minus their game on Saturday being scratched because of a positive COVID test among a player and also as well with, I believe, a staff member maybe. But, Mark Few coaching at Gonzaga, of course, Coach K. But not just that, but, Coach K with Duke, but more so is that the little guys, like your Loyola Chicagos, Florida Gulf Coasts even, Northern Iowas of the world that, again, those schools that get into the tournament, Isaiah, and can upset a program. USD, we upset UConn in 2008 after we beaten Gonzaga on our home floor. It was, a great game in 2008, and we beat UConn. Kind of in a way, though, that gives a school, a chance to kind of have that pride, though, of beating one of those, bigger, better, and more powerful schools out there. By the way, Isaiah, Casey has clarified his Higgins quote. He says, okay, guys, Higgins is a general term of humor, I like to add, when teams look bad out on the field. And also, you guys know that there's a character named Higgins on the old Magnum P.I. television series. So now we know, Isaiah, it's a reference to Magnum P.I. on CBS.
So originally when Casey used the word Higgins, right, I thought he was referring to T. Higgins. And then like when in today's episode, when we asked Casey to clarify the meaning of Higgins, and I was like thinking about why would Casey use Higgins? So I was thinking like, oh, it might be because of the Higgins diapers, I believe that is like in the world. And I was like, oh, maybe it's like the Casey or the Higgins diapers that is used like to, maybe he's using it to like depict poop or whatever. So that's what I was thinking. Sorry guys, we've totally gone off the rail. I mean, it's late at night.
Isaiah, where do you get Higgins from? Huggies. They're called Huggies.
What? Oh my God, you had it! Oh my. Huggies, that's right. Oh my God. Higgins.
We're going to move on to the next comment. Angel writes in with that college basketball is back. Who knew? Well, it started back on the 25th, and sadly, Angel, I said this at the top of the show, though, man, but today was my first day back at the office here at the University of San Diego. I'll put my office view back up for you guys real quick if you missed it earlier in the show. Again, trying our best to, of course, adhere to all the social distancing and, of course, adhere to all the COVID protocols in place. They actually broke out the graduation stage for me, the in-arena DJ, my game ops manager, and the stat crew to sit roughly 50 feet, it seems like, but a very good safe distance away from the scores table. That was the view again today, and that will be the view for a majority, if not the entire course of the season. Again, we're all trying our best to adapt to the view and the vantage point, but it was nice to be back and seeing college hoops being played here today, and also that it was the first game for USC. They had, sadly, a couple of games canceled due to COVID issues with other programs going on in college hoops. Also, Casey agrees. Good to see college basketball back. Angel says, I used to really follow college hoops, especially UCLA, but stopped, though, after the high school player used it as a minor league to go to the NBA. Fair point. I think Isaiah, obviously it is a springboard to the NBA, but more so I think Angel's right, though. The one and done, where you see a lot of these programs have players for 1 year and then they're going pro to the NBA.
Yeah, you never see the Christian Lattners of the world anymore. You also never see the Grant Hills, where they would stay at a program for like 3-4 seasons, and also the Juwan Howards, the Michigan, was it the Fab Five at Michigan? You never see those anymore. Like, where you have like 3 to 4 years of potentially creating a dynasty at a school and hoping to win like one or multiple championships. You just never see it because of the one and done rule. So I agree with you completely, Callan. The one and done rule has really killed college basketball. And also, like, for me personally, I don't really watch college basketball right now because there's just way too many games. I watch college basketball. Yeah, I watch college basketball like during March Madness. That's when I actually hunker down and watch college basketball, because that's the most exciting time of the year, where it's like one and done. Anybody can have a bad game and then they lose. They're out of the tournament.
I mean, I'd love to do that, but I get paid to watch college basketball and work about 16 to, a lot of games at 2 schools. So, hey, I get to do in-house announcing or do online streaming for college hoops. So I'll take what I can get, especially obviously nowadays with the ongoing crisis gripping the nation. Also, some more thoughts real quick about college hoops. Also, Angel says, who would have thought or known that Iona could be Rick Pitino's road to redemption? Very off base here, Isaiah. We, I think, saw Bobby Knight towards the end of his career go from Indiana and being a hard ass there to even going to Texas Tech and bringing that program to relevance before he retired. So, I mean, who knows?
Yeah, I agree. Who knows? Rick Pitino is a well-accomplished head coach. He knows what he's doing. So, Iona, they've got a great basketball coach with them, and I believe that Rick Pitino can turn that program around and give those long-suffering fans something to cheer for, maybe in like the 2-3 seasons that he's there, before eventually another program, picks him up and gets him to become their head coach.
Also, Angel says, I thought Casey was referring to the old Cincinnati coach with Higgins. Isaiah, everyone is also correcting you. It's Huggies, not Higgins. Huggies. It is Huggies, my man. It is not Higgins. It is Huggies diapers you're thinking of. And I agree with Sherda. What were you thinking, sir?
There was an H and a GG and an E and an S. So I was like, no, not an E and an S. I just remember there was an H and a GG in like that diaper company. So I was like, is it Higgins or is it Huggies? I went with Huggies, and obviously it was a major brain fart.
You said Higgins, not Huggies.
Higgins.
Only on the night shift, folks, where we talk about diapers on the air. Our sincerest apologies to you viewing us. Angel also says Dick Vitale would be proud of Isaiah laughing out loud. Angel also says, at least you're at USD, Cal. I thought they would have had you down at a room like Major League Baseball or the NBA. Again, Angel, I'm going to say this a lot, though. Different for sure. Weird, yes, but different more so because, again, no fans are there to harass me if I get someone's name wrong or build off the excitement after a made basket for either side, more so for the home team, obviously. Again, the ambient crowd noise, no crowd, distance, we're kind of going through the growing pains right now, trying to get a system in place for fouls because we are a long way, we're further back from the floor and on the, the graduation stage that we use for graduations and commencement at the Slim Jim. So I'll take what I can get right now. And I like the view. I kind of like being up a little bit more. I would prefer to kind of be a bit higher for hockey games too and for indoor soccer. But I'll take what I can get right now. And also, Casey, I agree. They need to make players go to at least 3 years of college before they can leave for the pros. And also, Angel says, how good UCLA, USC would have been had OJ Mayo and Shabazz Muhammad had stayed in school, and big surprise, they both weren't ready and out of the NBA in less than 4 years. Ouch.
Shabazz Muhammad, that was the big one, because I remember there were mock drafts before the season, linking Shabazz Muhammad as a potential number 1 pick, and to see him go from that to now out of the NBA, that's just sad.
OJ Mayo having a lot of problems as well, on and off the floor, sadly, as well with his time, I believe, in Memphis, maybe in Minnesota as well, but yeah, definitely I agree with Angel on that. Chardol cracked up laughing that Isaiah said that it was Higgins diapers, not Huggies diapers. Angel also says, thank God it wasn't Pampers. And he also says, good view. Definitely a good view. And again, we're all going to take it, because again, Angel, I've been consulting with a lot of my fellow announcers over the course of the past several weeks and seeing how, in fact, other schools have, in fact, done their operations. I think Kevin Hellebroner, who is the backup for the Hornets and does their G League team, actually asked me today what the protocols were in place for me. And I said, had to call the game through a mask, no face shield, but a mask. And that there was a bit of some difficulty that we're all trying to figure out to do with us sitting perhaps further back from the floor, where we don't have the communication with the referees and the official score, where fouls are a little bit tough to pick up right now after game 1. But we're working on some stuff. And I think everyone right now, not just me though, but a lot of other announcers, Angel, are in the same boat, because we're all trying our best to adhere to social distancing and also adhere, though, to safety for the players and the officials. But eventually, as more time goes on, we're going to get this better, and it's going to be like clockwork as this season does move on, in my mind, and for all of us out there that are working in college basketball. With that, Isaiah, to week 13 of the NFL season coming up on Sunday. Of course, both of our teams are in action. Of course, my Bears face the Lions at 10 a.m. on Sunday, while the Niners face the Bills in Arizona. Nonetheless, again, due to, again, folks, as we had talked about on Monday on Wild Sports Talk with myself, Isaiah, and John Mathis, due to new protocols in place in Santa Clara County, that the Niners cannot play their home games at Levi Stadium. They have to play their last home games of the year down in Glendale, Arizona, and out of the state for that matter. Isaiah, over to you with what game or games, along with your Niners, are you watching for Sunday, Monday, or even Tuesday for week 13 of the NFL season?
Well, Callan, the games that I will be watching is, first of all, I'm going to definitely be watching the Browns and the Titans game, because you have the Titans who are leading the AFC South. I think they are 1 game ahead of the Colts, versus the Cleveland Browns, who are in second place in the AFC North and in the thick of the playoff picture in the AFC. That's going to be one hell of a matchup tomorrow at 10 a.m. I can't wait for that one. Another game I'm definitely going to look out for is, and I'm pretty sure a lot of our viewers won't be looking forward to that game, because when they look at this matchup, they will think of it as a snooze fest, but I will be looking forward to it, and that is the Lions at your Chicago Bears tomorrow at 10 a.m. And Callan, the reason being is because I can't wait to watch that game and watch your Twitter and see what kind of rage tweeting that you are doing tomorrow during this game. Other games that I'm definitely going to look forward to is, I'm definitely going to be looking forward to the Raiders and the Jets. I know, like, the Jets, they suck right now, but I'm going to be looking forward to that game, because I know if the Raiders lose, we're not going to see Martin Garcia, not only for the next month, but we're not going to see Martin Garcia for the next year or two if they lose to the winless Jets. So that's another game I'm looking forward to. Let's go to the afternoon slate of games. Definitely got to be Rams and Cardinals, because that game's got major playoff implications. Both those two teams, my 49ers, I think, are 2 games back of the Rams, 1 game back of the Arizona Cardinal. So whoever wins that game, this affects San Francisco big time. And then Patriots and Chargers, of course, at 125, because, I hope the Patriots beat the living heck out of the Chargers, so that you can sing "The Chargers Lose Again" on the show on the night shift tomorrow. And then I would say that's pretty much it, because Broncos and Chiefs on Sunday Night Football. Listen, Drew Lock is back, Callan. Philip Lindsay is back. The Denver defense is, they're getting healthier, and the game is going to be at night. I think it's going to be snowing in Kansas City. So who knows, Callan? Drew Lock just might upset Patrick Mahomes tomorrow.
Here we go again.
I thought you were going to be gone. I thought that once I said that, you were going to be on your bed taking a nap.
Maybe I should have. I'm going to go as well with the Bears because I'm either going to rejoice about winning a game and snapping this losing streak, or I'm going to be shattering my computer and phone because of me rage tweeting and all that. But I think that if there's a saving grace, Isaiah, about this ball club of mine, they've won 5 in a row versus Detroit. Though they should have lost week 1, though, if DeAndre Swift doesn't drop that pass, that would have beaten Chicago in week 1 at Ford Field. But also at Chicago, of course, weather could be out of control. As we all know, with Chicago playing outdoors, and again, the Lions coming from inside to outside could be a big factor. I also, though, am going to go with one more game in the morning slate as well. I agree, though, about Cleveland and Tennessee because of how this Cleveland ball club has played so far. And can they somehow, some way stop Derrick Henry? So far, I don't think, Isaiah, we've seen a ball club really, I think, contain Derrick Henry yet so far this season. Maybe Pittsburgh is like the close one, but no one has been able to really contain Derrick Henry so far on the season. I also agree about the Rams and Cardinals in the afternoon slate. Again, the Rams have got to keep pace, of course, with Seattle, and also the Cardinals trying to keep themselves relevant as well. But I'm also going to go kind of in a way maybe off the board, though, Washington and Pittsburgh, because will perfection continue for the Steelers against Washington? And I know, of course, that the unnamed football team has had a couple of very close games and a couple of shocking upsets so far. I'll roll with those games in throughout the course of the week, coming up here for week 13 of the NFL season. Some more thoughts real quick. Isaiah first, Casey writes in, a lot of team announcers are doing road games from their stadium or arena or from the studio and just doing home games on site. Now, for me, at least, Casey, I'm only needed for home games anyway at this rate, so I'd be doing the game regardless from the arena or the gym regardless, but it has, in fact, been that way so far. And also, Angel says that UCLA was back. Was back at one point dominating the Pac-12 until Kevin Love did leave for the NBA during his time. Also, Angel writes, Bills, Browns. That should have been on SNF. Casey will probably beat the Broncos by 35, maybe 42. Who knows at this rate? Casey also writes, can't wait for the Cards and Rams. Tomorrow, first time since 2001. I will not be seeing the Rams in Arizona. I've been going to every one of those games here in AZ since the Cards moved here or to the NFC West and from 2002 to 2007. Still lived in Southern California in 2008. But be weird not being there. I think a lot of us agree, though, about not being able to see our teams play in general across the board for every sport. And also, Casey says that Denver will get their you-know-what whip tomorrow. Isaiah has had one too many on this program at this rate. Also, real quick, what else do we have here? Chardot's got Detroit beating Chicago tomorrow. Possible, but I think with the weather, perhaps with what it could be. Again, snow maybe. Detroit coming from inside to outside could be a factor. And also, if Swift, if they can catch the ball wide open in the end zone, they would be a much better ball club in my mind. And also, Angel says that the Steelers will beat the pro football team on Monday, but will lose at Buffalo next Sunday night. With that, folks, as we approach midnight, we do, though, folks, have to step away, though, for a quick developing story. With that in mind, Isaiah, over to you for this ongoing developing story. What do you got for us, man?
So, Callan, remember how we were talking about Matt Campbell, the Iowa State head coach, and him potentially either leaving for a Michigan or a Texas or even an NFL program? Well, I just read on Twitter that apparently right now there are as much as 5 NFL teams that have interest in the Iowa State head coach for their potential vacancies, and one of those teams could potentially be your Chicago Bears.
Interesting. I like what you're saying, so we'll see how things go. But again, folks, as many as 5 teams now in the NFL looking at Matt Campbell, the head coach of the Iowa State Cyclones. But that is in fact, folks, that developing story. We will let Isaiah add on, though.
One more thing. We said this earlier in the show, but this makes it even more critical. Iowa State better throw him a blank check if they want to keep him. Because if you don't, he's going to go to Michigan or Texas, or he's going to go to the NFL, because there is so much interest right now in him. He's the top coach right now in the coaching market.
We'll see how things go. But again, folks, a developing story per Isaiah Leung. As many as 5 NFL teams looking at Matt Campbell, the current head coach of the Iowa State Cyclones. With that in mind, though, Isaiah will now move on over, buddy, and wrap things up as we approach midnight and go into tonight's final thoughts. Time to wrap things up on this late night Saturday. With that, Isaiah, over to you. Before we get to the poll results, we'll go to you first with your final thoughts for tonight's program.
Well, Callan, before I get into my final thoughts, I want to thank Shardo Gupta, Angel, Casey King, as well as, let's see here, there's a lot of comments to go through. Martin Garcia as well for tuning into our program. We really, really love and appreciate this love and the support that you guys give us. So thank you so much for tuning in. Make sure you guys tune in for tomorrow's episode of the Night Shift. It's going to be a jam-packed show. We're going to be talking about a lot of the NFL games that happen tomorrow, so make sure you guys tune in for that. And also, ladies and gentlemen, we have Grant Cohn, San Francisco 49ers reporter for SI, joining us next week, Thursday at 5:30 p.m., so make a note of that on your calendar. It's going to be a heck of an episode next week. But, Callan, my final thoughts are, listen, Iowa State, first time since 1912, winning the Big 12 regular season championship. I'm so happy for Matt Campbell. He's a fabulous head coach. He's done a fabulous job of that program. Brock Purdy has been terrific the last 6 games with the Iowa State Cyclones, and he has a chance to vote up in the NFL draft in the next couple of weeks. So I'm really hoping and praying that they somehow, some way beat Oklahoma, because, Oklahoma is going to be out for blood against Iowa State because Iowa State beat them in the first game. So I hope that Iowa State is able to play their game, run the football, play great defense, and beat Oklahoma for a second time. And hopefully, just maybe, Callan, just maybe, if we see utter chaos in the college football world, maybe Iowa State can get into the college football playoff. And, I can come on the show dancing in late December when Iowa State makes the college football playoff. So I'm just hoping for that. But also, can't wait for the NFL slate tomorrow. I'm so thankful the Niners aren't playing tomorrow, so I don't have to go crazy and, not come on the show because my Niners lost and me being...
Come on, Jimmy, we got to get this first down. Hasty's open! Hasty, oh my God, you take a damn sack. He was wide open. Are you far?
Exactly. That doesn't have to happen tomorrow. So I'm glad that I get to just sit back, relax, and watch all the NFL games while drinking another mimosa. Because I got to say, Callan, I think mimosas have they have jumped past pina coladas in terms of my favorite alcoholic drinks, because the mimosa that I had tonight was just terrific.
As long as you don't have to hear the dreaded words of pumpkin pie anytime in the future, I think we'll all be happy. But again, folks, we just closed the poll on day 6 of the MI6 Sports Network's 31 Days of Hot Takes Bracket Challenge. Can we ask you folks which one would move on? Would it be Ryan Schreiner saying that Matt Stafford is a top 5 NFL quarterback, or Isaiah's draft day outburst when the Warriors had selected James Wiseman instead of LaMelo Ball? Isaiah, you can breathe. You lose to Ryan handily, 75% to 25%, which, by the way, Isaiah, sets up you and Ryan again, part 3 in round 2, coming up in maybe a week or so. So you're not seeing the end of Ryan anytime soon.
Well, first of all, even though I lost tonight, I feel like I won because the LaMelo Ball thing, even though it was a classic reaction, but I'm not proud of it because I nearly broke my computer when I slammed my headphones down really hard. I think I might have broke my computer actually because I've been having some really weird audio issues recently on my computers, but I don't know. We'll have to get that fixed soon. But yeah, congrats Ryan on the victory, and I'm just hoping that one more of my hot takes goes down, and that is the Luke Walton over LeBron hot take, so Callan can stop playing that video over and over, and also that video can go gone, goodbye, into the black hole, and out of this world eternity. So please.
Well, with that, Isaiah, you would have to have Ryan's hot take, but just beating tonight, beat you again. That is what the matchup would be. Luke over LeBron against Matt Stafford being a top 5 quarterback. So Isaiah, Ryan, part 3 in about a week or so. But again, folks, Ryan Schreiner wins tonight over Isaiah. We move on, folks, to day 7 tomorrow on Sunday. Shree with his thoughts of Tua Tagovailoa being Johnny Manziel 2.0 without character issues, or John Mappis and I walking off the set when Lamar Jackson was named the number 1 player during the course of the offseason. With that, folks, we'll see you back here on Sunday, folks. Till next time, good night. Bye-bye.